Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're diving into something truly mind-bending, the Schöningen Spears. This is one of those incredible archaeological discoveries that literally forces us to completely rethink the entire timeline of human innovation. So let's jump right in. So think about this for a second. What if ancient humans were far, far more intelligent than we ever actually imagined? You know, for the longest time, the traditional narrative painted this very specific and honestly kind of bleak picture of early prehistory. We were all taught to picture these primitive, brutish beings just scraping by, surviving on whatever meager scraps they could find, millions of years before agriculture or the pyramids were even a thought. But what if that story is totally incomplete? What if we've been vastly underestimating the brain power, the teamwork, and just the sheer engineering genius of the people who walked this earth way before we did?
Okay, I really want you to let this number sink in. 400,000. We are going back an estimated 400,000 years into the past. Just to put that massive scale of time into perspective, right? Recorded human history, so we're talking everything from ancient Sumer to the Roman Empire all the way to today, that only covers about 5,000 or 6,000 years. This discovery takes us back hundreds of thousands of years before modern humans, Homo sapiens, even existed. It's just a staggering leap back into deep, deep prehistory.
So where does this wild story actually begin? Well, it was 1994, and an archaeologist named Hartmut Thiem was leading an excavation in kind of an unlikely spot, the Schöningen open-cast coal mine in Lower Saxony, Germany. Deep, deep beneath the surface, his team started uncovering what at first glance just looked like ordinary pieces of wood. But they pretty quickly realized they had stumbled upon nature's ultimate time capsule. See, the unique waterlogged sediments of this ancient coal mine had created this perfectly oxygen-free environment, and that preserved these wooden artifacts for hundreds of thousands of years in just unbelievable condition.
Now, for years, the going assumption was that early humans from this era were basically helpless scavengers, just kind of waiting around for apex predators to finish their meals so they could pick at the leftovers. But the artifacts they pulled out of that German coal mine, they completely shattered that idea. Instead, we now know they were highly organized hunters. They were entirely capable of cooperating in groups to bring down massive, dangerous prey. This absolutely wasn't some passive, scavenged existence. This was a proactive, intensely organized way of life.
Let's look at exactly what they pulled from the earth. The artifacts were hunting spears, and each one measured a massive 2 to 2.5 meters long. That's up to 8 feet. And crucially, they were expertly carved from spruce wood. I mean, I don't know about you, but I struggle to put together modern flat-pack furniture, let alone hand-carve an 8-foot aerodynamic weapon from a raw tree. These definitely were not just random rough sticks somebody picked up off the forest floor. No, they were deliberate, purpose-built weapons. And because those waterlogged sediments preserved them so perfectly, archaeologists could literally see the exact tool marks and the intentional design choices made by the people who created them. The actual manufacturing process here is absolutely mind-blowing. Think about the steps involved. First, wood selection. They had to know exactly which trees offered the hardest, most resilient wood. Then, shaping. They carefully stripped the bark and carved down the raw material. Next up is balancing, which we're going to talk about more in just a second, but spoiler alert, it required an innate understanding of physics. And finally, polishing. They finished the wood to make it perfectly aerodynamic. This shows they possessed incredibly advanced woodworking knowledge, right? They were executing a deliberate, sophisticated, multi-step engineering process.
Okay, this is the part that genuinely amazes me. When scientists analyzed the Schöningen Spears, they found that the center of gravity was intentionally positioned right toward the front of the weapon. Why does that matter? Well, because modern track and field javelins, the ones used by Olympic athletes today, have their center of gravity positioned in the exact same place. This heavy front design is exactly what allows the spear to fly accurately and forcefully through the air. It is just incredible to realize that these ancient people were applying advanced aerodynamic engineering principles hundreds of thousands of years ago. Like, wow.
But here's the thing, the spears weren't just found in isolation. The broader context of the site is what really paints the full picture for us. Uncovered right alongside these engineering marvels were throwing sticks used for smaller game, intricately crafted stone tools, and crucially, thousands of wild horse bones. And when researchers examined those bones, they found clear, undeniable butchery marks left by those exact stone tools. This is the ultimate smoking gun. It is absolute proof of active, organized, large-game hunting. It basically puts the final nail in the coffin of that whole helpless scavenger theory.
The really crucial takeaway here is what taking down a wild horse actually requires in practice. I mean, you can't just run at a herd of massive, fast, easily spooked wild horses with a pointy stick and expect to survive, let alone actually succeed. Successfully hunting these large animals means these ancient people absolutely had to have complex social organization. It required advanced planning to set up an ambush, communication to coordinate the attack, and shared strategies to execute the hunt and then process the meat. It implies a level of teamwork that is fundamentally recognizably human.
All of this brings us to what I think is the most thrilling question of this entire explainer. Who crafted these impossible weapons? Seriously, if modern humans, Homo sapiens, didn't even exist yet, who exactly was walking through the forests of ancient Germany, engineering aerodynamic javelins and coordinating complex large-game hunts? Who was the mastermind behind this sophisticated technology?
Well, meet Homo Heidelbergensis. These were ancient humans who thrived in Europe long before we ever entered the picture. They possessed much larger brains than earlier ancestors and are widely considered to be a possible direct ancestor of the Neanderthals. The fact that they were the likely creators of the Schöningen Spears is huge. It proves that deep intelligence, complex planning, and sophisticated tool-making evolved way earlier in our evolutionary family tree than anyone originally expected. Now, in the spirit of good science, we do have to talk about the dating debate. For a long time, the original estimate placed these artifacts between 380,000 and 400,000 years old. However, as dating techniques have improved over the years, some recent scientific studies suggest the site might actually be a bit closer to 200,000 years old. And you know, this is just how archaeology works. We're constantly refining our data. But here's the incredible part. Whether they are 200,000 or 400,000 years old, they still remain some of the oldest complete wooden hunting weapons ever discovered anywhere. The massive paradigm shift they represent, that remains exactly the same.
Ultimately, what all this boils down to is that prehistoric humans deeply understood complex engineering principles. They knew how to select the appropriate materials, and they successfully manufactured highly specialized hunting equipment. These carved surfaces tell such a profound story. They aren't just old, ancient relics, they are literal proof of advanced survival skills, of deep cognitive ability, and of complex social bonds that fundamentally rewrite human history as we know it. They prove that the spark of innovation has been burning for a very long time.
So I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought. If we were so profoundly wrong about the last 400,000 years of our history, I mean, if we assumed these beings were just primitive scavengers when they were actually brilliant engineers and coordinated hunters, what else might we be underestimating about our distant ancestors? The Schöningen Spears are this powerful reminder that the journey towards civilization didn't just begin with written history. It began with skilled, ancient minds shaping wood and planning together in the wild. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning what you think you know about the past.